Soon the day that we're all dreading will come. It's going to be horrendous. Nobody quite knows how they're going to deal with it. But enough about my next trip to the hairdressers. Odsonne Edouard will also be leaving Celtic in the near future, and that is the subject of today's video. A wee joke there for you at the start. I hope you like that kind of thing. But if I'm honest, it really is no laughing matter when it comes to the prolific Frenchman who's scored so many goals over the last few years. He is going to be leaving the club at some stage in the near future. It'll be the summer, probably. Almost certainly be the summer. But even if it's after that, even if it's January or, say, the following year at the end of his contract, the fact remains that Celtic will have to continue without Odsonne Edouard. We did all right in the 130 odd years of our history when he wasn't playing for the club, so I think we'll be fine afterwards, but it is a big gap that we've got to fill when he leaves the club. Now, I wouldn't be one to criticise the Celtic recruitment department. I'm sure those guys know exactly what they're doing, but just in case they feel they need a wee helping hand, I've come up with this video today that is titled, as you know, 7 realistic replacements for Odsonne Edouard, and as you probably can guess, I'm going to give you 7 realistic replacements for Odsonne Edouard. Quick thing before we get on to our magnificent 7, if you've not yet managed to subscribe to 67 Hail Hail, blah blah blah, you know the script by now, please give it a go, it'd be massively appreciated. Every single one of you that subscribe adds 1 on to the total figure. That's probably stating the obvious, but I love checking that figure every day and seeing that it's gone up 30 or 40 odd. If you want to make that 30 or 40, maybe 130 or 140, then why not just give it a subscribe? Go for it. Right, I know what you're thinking, that surname just gives you the fear straight away, but I am here to tell you that Mohamed Bayo is not like Bayo at all. In fact, he's even more like another former striker. It's not Edouard, it's not Dembele, it's Amido Balde. Bayo is 22 years old. He's currently playing for Clermont in Ligue 2 in France. He scored 14 goals in 25 games so far this season. He is 6'2", but after closely studying some footage on YouTube, I can tell you that he looks a lot taller than 6'2". He's also deceivingly quick, and he scores a lot of goals by galloping beyond defenders, which kind of reminded me of Amido Balde. Think back to all those goals. I say all those, probably scored 2 goals for us, but the one at Partick Thistle, and the one at Kilmarnock as well that he never had control of until the ball was in the back of the net and the whole stand burst into Amido Balde song, you know the words, that kind of thing. Anyway, the long shot is that this Bayo, not Vakun Bayo, but this Bayo reminds me a lot of Amido Balde. He's a much better version looking at the highlights. He's scoring lots of goals in the French second tier, which is a pretty good standard of league. We've had a lot of success signing players from France and signing French players over the last few years. So, yeah, hopefully Celtic have their eyes on this guy. And if they are sending their scouts over to France, then maybe they should check out Charles Abbey as well. Now, I'll let you in on a wee secret. When I'm doing this list, the way I've tried to come up with this list is by looking at what Celtic have done in the past and where Celtic have maybe looked to sign players from. For example, Odsonne Edouard. How did Celtic come across Odsonne Edouard? Chances are they were maybe taking a look through the French national youth teams and saw Odsonne Edouard in the under-19s. So I just thought I would do similar. I don't know if Celtic did do that. Maybe that just says more about the way I play Football Manager. But Charles Abbey is who I've come across. He is 20 years old. He's playing for Saint Etienne. He's scored 2 goals in 442 minutes for them this season. So he's not seen a lot of football, but he has shown in that time that he knows how to put the ball in the net. It's not bad for a youngster playing in one of Europe's top leagues. But the main reason that I've gone for this player is that I'm still not over Ivan Toney. The guy we were linked with last summer, he is now streaks ahead of any other player in terms of the goal scoring charts in the English second tier, and I quite simply cannot go over the fact that we didn't sign Toney. So I've gone for Abbey, who, if you just look there, can see resembles Toney a lot with regards to the way he wears his hair and the fact that it's lighter at the back. So yeah, that's the real reason I've said this guy. Right, Luke Jeffcott might have been better suited to a 7 ways we could have replaced Gary Hooper video 10 years ago, because that's the player who I was seeing when I was watching clips of this guy. He is a Welsh youth international. He's yet to make the full step up for the Welsh national team, but his goal scoring run at Plymouth probably means that he'll be in about their shout for a place at Euro 2020 next summer. He scored 16 goals in 24 games this season for Plymouth. He managed 7 in 14 last year. He's still really young at just 21 years old. But the main thing, as I say, that I'm taking from watching him on YouTube, there's a few videos out there, is that pretty much all of his goals come from inside the 6-yard box. Pretty much all of them are tap-ins. You can imagine Gary Hooper scoring all of them. That doesn't mean to say that I don't think we should move for the guy, because he's clearly a goal machine. He's young, and Gary Hooper was a massive success at Celtic. But in terms of a replacement for Odsonne Edouard, probably not. So while I'm saying all this, I'm kind of now questioning why I've put him in a video that's titled Replacements for Odsonne Edouard. But hey ho, we move on. And we move on to another poacher, but one that you should be a little more familiar with. His name is Uless, and just in case you have been living under a rock for the last year, lucky you, he's a guy who scored 5 goals against Celtic in less than 2 games in the Europa League. He just completely loved playing against Celtic. He scored a hat-trick at Celtic Park on that dismal night when Sparta Prague beat us 4-1, missing loads of players. He was one of the guys who did play that night, and quite similar to Jeffcott, a lot of his goals, pretty much all of them, are tap-ins. Remarkably, looking at his YouTube, literally 9 out of 10 goals are the exact same with Uless. And it's like 3 or 4 of the ones he scored against us. Balls are played across by a winger or a fullback, keeper out of play, and he just taps it into an open net. Now, I don't know whether that just says that he's a complete poacher or that his movement's amazing. Maybe a bit of both, but I quite like this guy. He scored 7 in 14 for Sigma Olympic last season. He's got 11 in 19 in the league for Sparta Prague this year, 5 in Europe as well, all against us, but we move on. But even if he hadn't scored those goals against us, I genuinely think I would have him in this list, because he's quick, he's strong, and he knows the way to goal. And he's a player we're familiar with, and as we know, least line of resistance, Celtic often quite like to go for players who have caused us hassle. If you looked up goals in a dictionary, you would probably see this guy's name right next to it. That is because he is the very definition of goals. He knows his way into the back of the net. He currently plays for Young Boys, where he scored 18 goals in 25 games this season. That includes 7 in Europe, but that's a bit of a meagre total in comparison to last season, when he scored 41 goals in 46 matches in all competitions for Young Boys. He's 27 years old, so he's not exactly over the hill, but he's probably going into his peak years. He's a few years older than Edouard. He would cost a fair bit of money. He's contracted at Young Boys until the summer of 2023, so still got a couple of years to run after this season. You'd probably be looking at similar price to Edouard, 8 to 10 million, something like that. But I'm more than happy to set up a crowdfunder for all of the brilliant subscribers to chip into if we could try and help Celtic towards signing this player, because I think if we signed this guy, we would forget about Odsonne Edouard quite quickly. My big reservation with Nsame is whether he at 27 will feel, probably now that he wants to go to an elite league, England, Spain, Germany, and see how he can do. He's never really had a move like that in his past, and as much as we're a much bigger club than Young Boys, if we're honest, from his point of view, would moving from Young Boys to Celtic be seen as a huge step up that he'd really be itching to do? Not so sure, given how miserable we were in Europe and how much our reputation has fallen in recent years. But I really hope Celtic are looking at this guy. He comes with a guarantee for goals. I know that sounds a lot like an Ian Crocker commentary line, but it's true with this guy. A Frenchman with the surname Henry up next. Yes, please. The guy is Thomas Henry. Maybe it's Henry. I don't know. We'll continue by calling him Henry. He's French, but he's playing in Belgium for a club called OH Leuven. They are one of the smaller teams in the Belgian top flight, but they're really overachieving at the moment and could well get a European place this year. And a lot of that has been down to his goal scoring exploits. This season so far, he has scored 19 goals in 25. He managed 15 in 28 last year. He's the tallest player, I think, on our list here. He's 6'4". Goes without saying that he's really strong in the air, can head a ball really well, but a bit like myself, for a tall guy, he is surprisingly good with his feet. Few clips I've seen on YouTube of him setting up goals, nimble step overs, 360 turns, passing the ball off, good movement. I quite like this guy. Wouldn't be number 1 or even number 2 out of these 7 players in this video, but again, scoring goals for fun in the Belgian league, which I would say is probably pretty similar to the Scottish League. One thing I would say is he's never played a match in Europe, and obviously if we're signing a striker to replace Odsonne Edouard, ideally it's a player who can step up to the European stage. I'm not saying that Henry can't do that, but we're yet to see any evidence that he can. And last but certainly not least is Boulaye Dia, who is a 24-year-old currently playing for the French top flight side Reims. Now, quite simply, this guy is the most like Edouard out of any of the players I've mentioned on this video so far. Again, when I was trolling through the videos of him on YouTube, I actually had to kind of scratch my head a few times and get myself back in shape because I kept thinking it was Edouard. He runs really similarly, he's similar build, similar height, he plays the game in a very similar way, and you could imagine pretty much all of the goals he was scoring being scored by Odsonne Edouard. So if we're going like for like, this guy could be one to watch. Another reason he stood out for me is the fact that he's out of contract, not at the end of this season, but at the end of the following season, which is obviously the same time as Odsonne Edouard. He's got a similar rating or similar transfer value on transfermarkt.co.uk. That would maybe suggest that he'd be a little bit out of our price range, but I think it's worth looking at anyway. He's a Senegal international. His main attribute is his lightning speed. He is quicker than Odsonne Edouard. His finishing is good as well. He maybe has some trouble sometimes with injuries and various other things, but I think if we are going for a like-for-like replacement with Odsonne Edouard, a player who could come in and fill the void that Odsonne Edouard is leaving, then I think we should really look at Dia. Okay, so let me know what you thought of this video. I did a fair bit of research there. I spent hours and hours, well, about 1 hour looking through clips on YouTube. It's a tough job I have, really, watching football on YouTube. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about some of the suggestions, if you have any alternative suggestions, when you think Edouard's going to leave, how much we'll get for him, basically anything to get the conversation going. Remember, you can read more about all this kind of stuff on 67hailhail.com. We also have the forum.67hailhail.com. And if you've not yet subscribed to this channel, we really would appreciate you doing that. Take care, everyone, and hail hail.